Hello, everybody. David Woolwich here, New View Safety Coach. Thank you for watching this current episode in the Shut Up David series. Today, we've got a gentleman who I met through one of my training courses at the Institute of Executive Coaches and Leaders. I met him there doing our Cert 2, and then it turned out that we were enrolled into the same course at University of Sydney doing the Masters of Coaching Psychology as well. It's a small world, isn't it? So anyway, he's gone through this transition as what I'm going through currently. He's a couple of years advanced on me. He's gone through a transition of moving from one profession into coaching. He's a very nice guy. He's very articulate, unlike me at the moment. And I asked if he'd like to come on and talk about his journey from where he was to where he's looking to get to. And he very kindly said, yes, he would. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity for people who are listening to this, who want to think about or who are thinking about transitioning from their current profession into a coaching profession, what that might look like and how other people have done it before in the past. So let's bring him on. Braden, thank you very much for joining us, mate.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for having me, David. And thank you for the very, very kind, maybe slightly exaggerated introduction there, but I'll see what I can do. Live up to your standards.
Can you hear that? Can you hear that while I'm talking?
I can hear. I'm a nice guy. I'm very
articulate. No. If I'd have known you could hear it, I wouldn't have said all those nice things.
I'll be watching it later.
Yeah. No, I honestly didn't know, because for listeners who are listening, from my perspective, what I do is obviously Braden and I, or the guest, we meet in the main area, and then I move them out the main studio. And I thought, in my mind, I do an intro, they can't hear or see anything, and then I just bring them straight in. I didn't realize I could hear it. I'll have to start being nastier now. I'm supposed to be nice.
It's good prep. It's good prep.
Yeah, it is. How are you going anyway? We had our class the other day, didn't we? Our 3-hour weekly lecture.
3 hour. I mean, loving the goal theory. How are you finding kind of learning about goal theory and applying that case conceptualization?
The case conceptualization yesterday was particularly good. I found personally, when Sean was talking about how when he first started using it, he would do it after every coaching session. I thought that's actually quite a good way of doing it, because you do it after every coaching session. In my mind, anyway, you actually start thinking in framing all your coaching sessions in that perspective, and you start analyzing it critically for the next session. That's what I thought. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we should say for all the viewers who case conceptualizations, there's a new set of words for them. That's, I guess, my way of thinking about it. It's like a way of using a model or theory, or kind of settled models or theories, and then apply that to, okay, well, what is this client or coachee thinking or feeling? Like, what's the situation they're in? So we're talking about goal theory the last couple of weeks. It's applying, how do the levels of their goals, their goal hierarchy fit here? Like, they actually have too many goals far from the future and not enough near term? They've got goals that are outside of their control, not inside their control. So it's a real great framework to say, actually, I can tie some of this to research, that evidence base.
Yeah. And I did, I know we've jumped straight in at this point. Don't worry, we're going to backtrack in a second, and we'll do a bit of an intro. But Braden, this is the first time Braden and I have had a time to chat since the class yesterday. So after that first week of goal theory, I was so excited by it. I wrote a bit of a blog, and then I did a bit of a video that I put on my YouTube channel as well, which is talking about, prior to that, I just assumed that a goal was a goal. All goals were equal almost. And then when we started dissecting and go, no, some goals are framed in a positive, some goals are framed in a pejorative, some goals are framed for the future, some goals for now. And depending on who you're talking to in their particular context and the situation they're in, you have to be able to pick the right kind of goal, which gives them the best chance of achieving it and maintaining the momentum and, getting them to where they need to be. So it's that selection of goal motivation. That was so enlightening for me, to be honest with you. But I found it really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let's start off at the beginning then. Yeah. Let's
start from the start.
Let's start from the start, shall we? Okay. So Braden Moore currently lives in Queensland?
Melbourne.
Melbourne. Melbourne.
About half of Australia.
Yeah. Well, WA takes up half anyway, so the other half is we always forget about the other half. So Braden, why don't you tell us, give us a brief history of your. So if we look in your life in two halves, your prior profession, your professional life, and jobs before becoming a leadership coach, and then how you transitioned into where you are currently with your business, Think, Grow, Lead Consulting. So let's start when you left school. What did you do when you left school?
Sure. Well, that's when I left school. I went to University of Melbourne. I studied a Bachelor of Science there, and I either wanted to be a musician, and then Dad said there's no money in music, so I got a Bachelor of Science instead. And I was there for 5 years doing the undergrad and then the Masters of Science in particle physics. So, like, I've done things very differently to coaching, and very differently to what I did before coaching as well. So, learning about particle colliders and experimental particle physics, and a lot of very interesting things that I get to bring out at parties, but not too much in the day-to-day work.
Big Bang Theory springs to mind, Hadron Collider, and all that kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the one. I was very, very excited about that back in the day, and the excitement slowly went down, but get to bring it out for things like this.
Yeah, every once in a while. So then you were studying that, and then so particle physics, and then what happened? Because I know you ended up working in the IT industry, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, while I was doing my study and even through high school, I was making video games and things on the side. Like, I was a bit of an avid coder, avid programmer, kind of taught myself to code in early high school. So for the next decade, I was hacking things on the side, wrapped up my master's degree and thought, well, I'm not really sure what to do next. And I was very fortunate that I was at the right place at the right time. I knew someone who knew someone.
Yeah,
So one of my friends from university days, he was in a startup. The founder of that startup knew someone who was starting a new company. And I was pitched this like, oh, this guy's a university researcher. You maybe do some data entry and I'm like, that sounds cool. I'll do that while I get a real job. And turns out I was there for the next kind of 4.5 years. I joined this startup. It was an epilepsy diagnostics and service company, like a startup in Melbourne that I joined as the first employee. I was there for 4.5 years. It grew from 1 employee to 150, kind of expanded across Australia and now into the States and the UK. So yeah, I learned so much through there, kind of came into that startup ecosystem and software engineering as a profession, very much just by chance and very much by, having a coffee with some guy in Brunswick.
Yeah, right. Right place, right time, like you said.
Exactly.
And then what happened?
So after my time at SEER, I learned a fair few things, but the way that I say it is I was like a big fish in a small pond. Like, I was the head of the software product. I was managing their cloud platform team, their mobile app team, their hardware software integration teams.
Wow.
And that's all very well and good. Yeah.
Yep.
But the problem was, like, if I'm the expert in this space, then what am I going to learn? How am I going to learn anything here? It's like I'm talking to the CEO. I mean, his expertise is being a CEO and being, a founder, not necessarily being someone who knows about building technology teams. So instead of staying in that comfort zone, I decided to move into somewhere that was like five times as big, kind of 10 years older. I moved into a company called CultureAmp, which is a HR tech employee experience platform company based in Melbourne. So they were founded like 2009 or something. They're like a unicorn, $1 billion business now. That I had around 500 employees when I joined, and then 1,000 by the time that I left. And that is like a great place in terms of values and mission. Like, they're trying to make the world of work a better place and improve kind of how managers manage and how employees kind of experience their work life. While also being a place where there is just so much great talent in terms of engineering, in terms of product, in terms of design, in terms of like building things that, one, are world class, and two, that, the world actually wants.
Yeah, right. So you're no longer the biggest fish in the pond, no?
Exactly. It's, always trying to find that bigger pond where you're the smaller fish.
Yeah. That's a unique mindset, to be honest with you, Braden. There's a lot of comfort to be had in being the biggest fish in the pond, because you go unchallenged. You people generally tend to default to what you say. You get what you want. And I know you said that your motivation was to learn from other people. But why? What drove you to do that? Because that's a big step, isn't it? Moving somewhere to force yourself to expand as a person and a professional.
Mm.
What motivated you to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my big values, and like I'm really big on values, and I kind of love, we were talking about goals and things before, like values being like the top level of goal.
Yep.
One of my values is like mastery. So like looking to not necessarily be the best in the world or anything, but kind of be the best that I can be at something.
Yep.
And like I recognize that to do that, that is putting yourself in environments where you are being stretched, where there are kind of bigger fishes that you can learn from, that you can look at them and, you know, like you can see them as role models and model your behavior after them. And there wasn't
Yep.
as much opportunity at that at SEO where I started, but moving into Culture Amp, it's just opened a whole new world. And there was just so much learning that I was able to take, you know, for even the first 6 months compared to the past kind of 18 months at the previous organization.
It's different, isn't it? I know the MMA fighters, they class it. They use the metaphor steel sharpens steel, and you have to be in those environments where there are people who are better than you. That brings out the betterment in you as well. You know, you have to raise your game more in order to be able to keep up, and you know that just brings out the best in you. So, what were you doing there? Is that when you were director of engineering there?
That's right. So I, after a few shuffling around, and if there was a few leadership changes while I was there, but I eventually moved into a director of engineering role. And so what that looked like was I was managing directly kind of 9 to 10 engineers, and they were like, you know, lead or staff level engineers. Indirectly, around 36 engineers reporting kind of up into them.
Yep.
I worked on 2 different parts of the product, and like the culture and the systems used there were like just night and day. So I joined working on their legacy product, and this was, you know, the money maker. This was what Culture Amp was known for, like engagement surveys, well-being surveys, and so on. And that like was the one with like 36 engineers working in there. It was built on code that had been around for 13, 14 years. And that meant it was very slow to work through. There was a lot of challenges in terms of, all right, we want to add this one small thing here. Well, there's only so much more you can cram into that page or cram into that backend before everything falls down. So there was a lot of kind of working around and making the trade-off. Do you work around it forever and ever, or do you actually pause, spend the next couple of months actually fixing this bit, and then go back into it? So that was
36-year-old. That's very old in IT terms, isn't it?
No, I mean 36 people, 13 years old, but yeah, 13 years
sorry,
old.
13 years old. That's still old.
That's like in terms of technology, like the technology you're using now didn't exist back then. The technology we're using then, like many of them are no longer used. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So
okay.
It goes both ways.
All right. So you were director of the legacy product, like I said, 36 people either directly or indirectly reporting into you. You happy there? You enjoy what you're doing?
Yeah. So I think there were some parts that I really enjoyed about that. Like one of it was there was a very strong culture of wanting to make things better. Like the fact that we could see this isn't actually this is not where we'd like it to be. There'd been some decisions made, partly just due to COVID and layoffs and external factors that meant work that we planned to do 4 years ago, didn't get done. So it was quite tight knit in terms of everyone recognizing, look, there's some challenges here, but because of those challenges, that's actually what makes us tighter and pulls us together. One of the teams that I work with there is the best team that I've worked with in my career, like super high productive, exactly high productive, high performing, highly engaged, huge amount of personal professional growth. People are still, connecting even after their experiences, and they've all gone to different companies now. And that just kind of warms my heart whenever I think about, that experience and that team.
It's amazing when you have those memories, isn't it, of those particular working groups. I have a few as well over my time, and everything, it's almost like the stars align. There is mutual trust, there is caring, there is conflict, but it's not personal. It's it's system based. It's for the betterment of whatever it is you're working on, and it's not taken personally either. And it just feels like an environment where everyone can bring their best to the table, and then even egos they're put aside to a large degree as well, aren't they? Everyone's prepared to listen
Mm.
to everybody else, and like I said, build the best that they can build. So you're in there, you've got this great team. How do you get from there, which sounds like an amazing place, to moving towards coaching leaders?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we were talking about doing this master's in coaching psychology, and Sean, one of the lecturers here, he's like the director of the coaching psychology unit there. Um, Something that he said really resonates with me, and I think it kind of ties back into how I get from there to here, which is that something around like you don't just look inside yourself and say, oh, look, there's this is my purpose. I'm just gonna like discover it. Just kind of a lot
Yeah.
of introspection to find. It's like, well, no, you don't like look inside and there's a core that you discover. It's a process of self-authorship. It's a process of actually living experiences, and then in retrospect seeing, well, what ties those together, what is
Yes.
the story that you can tell from that. So I did 5 years of particle physics, so clearly didn't know what I wanted to do back then, or maybe I thought that was something different to what it is now. But it's through reflection, so working at SEER at the startup, kind of working in Cultramp and helping to rebuild those teams. The parts of my work that I have really enjoyed, that have given me the most fulfillment, isn't necessarily building stable, secure, high-performing engineering systems. It's not about building products that thousands and millions of people can use. It's been about working with individuals and helping those people realize their potential. So the team I talked about, helping them get promotions, having their best experience at work. When I was a director of engineering, managing the engineering managers and helping them navigate some pretty tricky challenges, like post layoffs, you've lost some team members, helping them say, well, how do we rebuild this culture in the team, rebuild the engagement, build that psychological safety. So the more that I did that, the more I said, well, I want to make this the main thing.
Yeah, right. And why is that? What value of yours does that peak, or does that sustain?
So I think this ties into my like how much I value like potential and helping others unlock there. So it starts personally for myself. Like I try to do a lot of things to grow myself and grow my own potential. So like that's why I'm studying this degree with yourself, David.
Yep.
That's why I try to push myself into taking different roles. Like I wanted to be an Olympic fencer at some point, so I kind of dedicated myself to that. It's like, yes, I didn't get there, by the way, but I'm really focused on this.
We've had this conversation before, though, haven't we? About this
We have.
fencing side of things, and it was actually during a coaching practice session that we were doing at was it IECL that we did that?
I think it was ICL, the strength-based, one of the strength-based sessions.
It was, wasn't it? And just for, I know Braden brushed it off and said he didn't get there, but he you won state champion in your age bracket, didn't you?
That's right.
In a very short space of time, within 12 months of learning the sport. Is that correct?
That's right. So I mean, that was the novice state champs that I came, but I think then the B grade state champs, kind of like second in like a kind of 6 to 12 months later. Not quite national level, not quite international level, but I was pretty happy with what I accomplished in that period.
In 12 months, mate. That's impressive. That's super impressive. Super impressive. Well done for that. So you've got this value, and it just reflected then as well in your fencing journey, if we call it that little episode of your life where you thought you wanted to do that, and you dedicated pretty much all your free time from memory as well, didn't you? You're going way out of your way, practicing almost every day after work and weekends and all that kind of stuff. So you've got this internal drive and value for yourself to better yourself, to see what you're capable of, to drive yourself to be the best you can be. But not just that, you've realized as well that the best parts of the jobs that you've had is where you've helped other people achieve similar things in their own life. So at what point did you put that value together and go, I want to move, I want to take that value and that drive that I have and put that into the coaching profession and discipline? And because there'd be lots of ways in which you could help people achieve their best. Why coaching?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I've had this question asked of me as well. It's like, well, if you want to help people, why don't you just like stay a leader in an organization? Like instead of a director, become your VP or a CEO or CTO, and will manage across there. And I think the answer that I have to that is, even when I was managing one team, then managing kind of 2 to 6 teams, like that's expanding my impact, and it's meaning I'm having more than just an impact on a few people here. It's like a whole group within the organization. Even if I'm the best director of engineering in that company, I might be helping 60, 50, maybe 100 people there, and that's really good work. However, if I'm starting to do the work that I'm doing now and working with leaders in tech, like other engineering managers, other engineering directors, and doing a little bit work in this organization, then that organization, that one there, if you have even like 10% as much impact on those leaders across a wide range of companies, wide range of industries, like one that has so much more breadth of impact, and also those people are just so disconnected from each other that they have like cascades of impact down. So, if I'm helping like 5 managers in the same organization, they kind of already work together and they kind of already learn from themselves. But if you're working with 5 different organizations, just that coaching ripple effect of, well, what happens when you impact this person, it just has such a positive benefit, to everyone around them. So the more that I can spread that influence and help, a range of people grow, I think that's what I've been really looking for in moving outside of one organization to coaching across organizations.
Yeah, right. Okay, so it's a mathematical equation essentially that you can that you can actually help more people doing what you do now compared to staying in one organization and working there. Okay, well, why don't this might be a good time actually to bring up your website if we're all right with that, just to have a quick look at that so people know where to go. So let's have a quick look. So this is your front page company. It's called Think, Grow, Lead. And your main statement there is, we help leaders in high growth tech navigate change, build strong cultures, and empower their teams. So that, I think that reflects exactly what you've just been talking about there, which is helping leaders help individuals to become the best they can be, essentially.
Absolutely.
That's what you're talking about there.
Yeah, that part about change is like so relevant, especially in, I think most organizations now, it's probably trite to say, oh, in this fast-paced world, because everything's pretty fast-paced now. But, I was at SEER, and that kind of went from 1 to 150 in 4 years. Culture Amp, that was a large organization, doubled in size over a few years. Like I do, I do some coaching and mentoring with a bunch of startups and early stage founders, and, the challenges they're facing, no matter how talented they are, the challenges are so different, in 6 or 12 months now, that there's always that need for continual growth, and having that support to help you go to that stage, to move from where you are now to where you need to be. I feel that's like really missing in the industry, but a real key piece to making sure that you're growing yourself as well as supporting your team and empowering them.
Something's just come to mind, Braden, while you were talking about that then. While you were working for Sears and these other organizations, and especially when you were a senior leader in this organization with responsibility for their prestige product and quite a few engineers, did either of those organizations provide you with a coach? Do you have any first-hand experience of being a coachee in a professional setting?
Yeah, so this was something that I had to actively seek out myself.
Right.
So I was fortunate that I had a manager who took a coaching approach to management, to leadership. But like, I've been surprised, even outside of CultureAmp and talking with a range of other people in this industry as well, that there's far less kind of recognition, or maybe even valuing of, what like this leadership development or coaching, kind of whatever part of leadership development you can think about, like how infrequently that's applied to these organizations.
Yeah.
So it's real. Yeah, that's been a real challenge from other people that I've talked to. It's like, well, there's not really that support, and they don't really know, who to be talking to and how to continue to build those skills.
Yeah, right. So let's have a quick look through here, through your website. And I know it's only a new website; it's still growing, as with your business. But let's have a quick look. So we've got places, services you provide. navigating change, effective communication, balance of delegation, direction, and inspiration. So this is, I think it goes back to what we talked about there, doesn't it? It's that helping those senior leaders become better leaders so that they can help their people more. And I wonder why it's not necessarily provided so readily and so. Why is it, do you think, that coaching isn't as common as what it is in, say, America or other European countries? Here in Australia, it's, I mean, prior to me personally getting involved in it, I'd never really heard of professional organizational coaching. It's not really that popular over here yet, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, two things come to mind here. One of those is, and this is like a general comment on, like, Australia compared to something like the States. So the States is just super competitive, super, high performing, work 70, 80 hours a week, get 2 weeks holidays. Australia, it's we're a bit more laid back. We get our 4 weeks off, which, very happy with. But there's less, I think complacency is the wrong word here, but people are more comfortable with where things are. It's like, actually, no, things are going pretty well. So, do we really really look for, like, what is that thing that gets us the next 1, 2, 3% improvement? Perhaps not.
Gotcha. So there's not necessarily the competitive nature that they have in say the United States. And I know we're using broad generalist strokes here to categorize two very different countries, continents even. But yeah, that's interesting. That could be true. That could be true on some level. Look, before we leave your website, here he is. He's Braden. He's your
That's
coach.
me.
People in the tech industry. I'm assuming it's not just the tech industry you work with leaders in either, is it? Or is it?
No. So, I mean, that's, as you probably know, kind of in the early days as a coach, so much of this is relationship based and kind of working with a network. So that's where I've been working, and that's kind of where I know people. So it's talking with
That's your niche
engineering
in a
leaders.
way.
Exactly. That's the niche there. But the benefits of coaching go beyond even just, that particular area. Like, I'm not talking to anyone about, here's how to, set up your Kafka stream, or here is how to refactor your code properly, very, engineering or product development specific things. I mean, I don't think I'm the person you want to talk to about those things.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? And I've spoken to other people about this before, because obviously you've got your business, your niche is IT engineering, and senior leadership in that. Mine's safety and leadership in that. But sometimes, in fact, quite a lot of times, I find it easier to not coach people who work in safety, because then I don't have an inkling as to what they do, and I don't need to know what they do. In fact, it makes me a better coach if I don't know anything that anything about their industry, because it's the individual I'm interested in. I find it a lot more taxing mentally if I'm talking to someone who works in safety, because then I have to remember that I've got these ideas that they might not have. I've got this experience that they may not have. I've got ideas about thoughts and solutions they could try, but it's not about me giving that information, is it? It's about them exploring their own. So that's all just to say, I find it easier sometimes to coach people who do not work in the industry that I've worked in prior. Do you find the same?
Yeah, it's certainly, I think it works another way as well, whereas the coachee, the client, their expectation of what that coaching relationship is and what you can bring to it. People can like, I've had people ask me, it's like, oh, well, what do you think about this? Or, what's the next step in my, career here? Because I've been there, I have that experience from a mentorship lens, but then part of that conversation is like, ensuring that the coachee has that idea of self-efficacy and understands that actually, you don't need me to give you an answer. And like, we can certainly get to that point. If you're the well runs dry, I can provide some suggestions and we bounce off them. But helping them understand, look, you don't need me or any other expert, because you're that person who can work out, well, what are your unique strengths? What do you actually want to bring to this situation?
Yeah. No, exactly. All right. So before we close off on this, if you are interested in getting in talking to Braden about any of his services that he provides on his webpage here, he's obviously got a contact form you can fill in, and that will go straight through to Braden, I assume, and he'll be able to get in contact with you and set up a meeting. So is there anything else on here we want to look at, Braden, or is that it for the moment?
That's all good. You can check me out on LinkedIn as well. There's a link down the bottom. I write pretty regularly on kind of leadership, culture, growing, like empowered teams. There we go. So yeah, plenty of hopefully useful information for kind of leaders in tech and leaders looking to grow themselves in their organizations.
Yep. Hey, look, I study there as well.
Yeah, there we go.
Awesome. So, Braden, we've
David
gone through very official, wasn't I? We've gone up to 30 minutes. And what I'd like to do for this last 10-15 minutes, if it's all right with you, we've gone over your past profession and achievements, gone over your values, what drives you to do what you do, why you want to get here. We know a little bit about obviously what you've done in order to be able to get yourself professionally ready in relation to IECL training that we've both been on, and also this current studying that you're doing. Can you talk to us a bit about what it was like to transition? I think listeners and listeners and watchers would be very interested to know how you went about, because that's a huge change, isn't it? It's a huge change going from what you're doing, which is essentially a stable, I would imagine, quite nicely paid career and profession, into the unknown. How did you find that?
Yeah, I mean, the first big caveat here is that, like, I am still transitioning through there, and I'm still actually building that up. And I think it's probably true for everyone at every point of their career as well. Like, there's never a fixed point where it's like, cool, I'm done now. There's always kind of more to expand, like more to refine the niche, or to build your own skills, or to provide different service into the market. And that being said, the first step was actually one, recognizing what it is that I wanted to do in terms of, broad strokes, and then identifying, well, actually, is this a career path that exists? Like you said, before you got into this coaching, didn't know organizational coaching was a thing that people did.
Yeah.
And it turns out, that is a service that exists, that there's training for, that is very highly valued in many organizations. So it was identifying that, kind of working with some career advisors and a career coach as well, actually.
Yep.
Looking around to see, well, what are these training options? So things like your IECL, very well regarded, and the coaching psychology degree. And then from there, and I guess from now, it's an ongoing journey of like my own professional development, because it's not like this is a career that I have been explicitly training for, for 10 years. Like, there's parts of things that you've done from like leader as coach and kind of your leadership management experience that you bring into this, but it is a whole different set of skills. There's things like building of active listening, case conceptualization, how you can tie different theories in those conversations. So it's doing that. It's, building up the hours and kind of putting that in your logbook. And I think the other side of it is just the amount of business development needs to happen. So, I'm doing this, I'm doing this at my own. I'm not kind of through an organization, and probably the same thing for you, David, that you can't just rely on here's your stream of clients coming through, here's your paycheck coming into your bank every month. There's got to be things like, talking to people that and people you don't know. It's just having these conversations. It's, seeing where you can help others. And maybe something comes out at the end, maybe not. But really,
that's part of the reason. That's part of the reason why I asked you on this talk, to be honest with you, Braden, is to, it's a case of, look, I'm building my business, but you're building your business. Let's put this information out there, because there may be somebody else who's thinking of doing similar, or who is doing similar, and can take something from what we're talking about as well, about the journey that we're going through, and maybe even reach out and start networking themselves with other people who are similar to them. But how is it in Melbourne? How is the coaching community in Melbourne? Do you have much of a membership base there?
Yeah, so Actually, it's funny. I think I didn't go to it last week, I think last month, because there are plenty of other commitments with our degree right now. But like ICF, ICF
The
has a
International
chapter,
Coaching Federation.
Executive Coaching Federation, Australasia. Yep, I think they've got a chapter that's actually kind of right nearby me. I think probably just down the road, actually.
Right.
So they have like a get together every month or two, like IECL. That's the Institute of Executive Coaching Leadership, like you said before. That's largely based in Sydney, in Australia, but there is people like myself and others who have done that course and are based in Melbourne. So like I look to attend some of their events when those are around. But
Yep.
also, and perhaps it's partly because of my industry being in tech, like we're all pretty comfortable with doing things virtually, kind of meeting online. Like I'd love a coffee and I love chatting with people in person, but if not, like someone's up in Sydney or someone's in the States, like I found people are more than happy to have that time to chat about their experience and kind of share their advice as well. So it's trying to cover all those different avenues.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, it's actually funny you mentioned the ICF. I've got an interview first week of March with the Australasian president. We're going to be talking about actually the first week when we started this new course. We were talking about the perception of coaches in the eyes of senior leaders if they have a professional qualification, especially within the psychology fields. And I thought that's really interesting because I hadn't I'd personally wanted to get it not because I knew that, but because it was for my own self-worth and, for my own credibility, I suppose, as well.
Credibility, yeah.
But then when we heard about that in the first couple of weeks of this course, I thought, oh, that's interesting. I reached out to ICF. I reached out to ICF and said, look, would anybody be interested in talking about the entry to market, this, the accreditation process, the process for becoming ICF accredited and a member there is not a simple case of doing an IECL course and then just applying for it. As you mentioned, you've got to go through the hours. You have to it's quite a stringent process of getting an ICF accreditation. And I think they do that deliberately to keep the bar raised as an entry point to say, look, if you have an ICF accreditation, if you're a member, especially a professional member, then, anyone looking at that can say, you have gone out of your way to achieve more than the average coach in order to be able to attain that, because we've made it deliberately prestigious is probably not the right word, but we've made it deliberately arduous in order to get there, to give it some credibility. So I wanted to talk to them about that, and he came on and said, yeah, let's do this in the beginning of April, which I think is great because, I mean, people may not know this when they're listening to this, but anyone can say they're a coach currently. There is no barrier to entry for calling yourself a coach. Sorry?
It's the Wild West.
It is, isn't it? And the term coach is such a varied, well, not varied. It's such an undefined, undisciplined word, isn't it? I mean, people call themselves coaches all the time when really, in the professional sense, they're not coaches. They're more mentors, or they're more consultants or advisors. And it still amazes me when I talk to people and it's, safety coaching. Oh, you just come in and tell us exactly what to do and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, maybe I need to drop the safety bit from there really then as well and just say, look, organizational coach, get back to what we were talking about earlier about, and do you just coach people in the tech industry? It's a ubiquitous skill set across any particular profession. It's not about the profession per se. It's about the individual, isn't it? It's about that. It's about having those structured questions and conversations and creating a relationship with that individual. And I really like the way that companies like IECL are partnering with ICF. And there's Australian Institute of Professional Coaching as well. They partner with ICF to provide the training, which is in alignment with the ICF accreditation. So you can work your way through and it'll help you attain certain amounts of the ICF accreditation. But you're right, it's the Wild West, and so many people I see, especially on LinkedIn, life coach, this coach, that coach. and you look at
Mm.
their credentials, and there's no professional credentials there in relation to coaching whatsoever.
Yeah, no, and it's harmful for kind of the field as a whole, because then you
It
have,
is.
I think, yeah, Sean or Michael might have said this in our course, but you've had coaches coming through organizations without the adequate training, and then they just do things which perhaps not in the best interest of the clients, and that leads, well, the clients themselves to have a poor experience in coaching, but also that whole organization to sour on coaching and miss out on the actual benefits that this can bring to them, to their leaders, and to their people.
Yeah. No, fair call. Fair call makes our job harder as well down the line, doesn't it? When we're talking to people about it, because we had a coaching before, and he just came in and he just waved a lot of banners around and said we were wonderful and great, and then left. And it's like, well, yeah, it's a little bit of what it is, but it's not all about that, mate.
No. I mean, one of my trainers with IECL, not the course that we had, one before that, he actually says, and I think it's a really good point, that you're not really selling coaching. And when he goes into organizations, he's not saying, look, I'm a coach and I'm going to sell you some coaching, because as we've kind of discussed, that's not really a thing that people are aware of. And if they're not aware of it, they're not actually looking for it. But really, people are looking to, like, no, I've got this, I've just moved into this new leadership position, or I've got this new manager and he's struggling with here, or there's this particular challenge that I'm trying to solve. The coach isn't saying, I'm going to come in and coach you. It's, look, I can actually help you work through that. So this person, he sells like projects. So it's like, let's do a project together. And what that actually looks like in practice is that kind of 60 minutes of coaching every fortnight, kind of checking with the organization. But it's how you frame that.
Gotcha. So it's going back to what Sean was talking about. If people are allergic to the word having a goal, then you don't talk about having a goal. You talk about a future state that they're trying to aim for, something on those lines. It's that subtle use of language, isn't it? To get around what that actually is. I always struggle, when people ask me what an organizational coach is, I always struggle because I try to remember so many great, wonderful quotes that I've either, they've read or heard from people defining what they see as coaching, but I can't remember other people's quotes. It doesn't sit with me. So I'm still going through the process myself of discovering the answer to that when people ask me. And the one thing I've got is Sir John Whitmore, the founder, creator, whatever, of the Grow model. He had a very simple formula, which is coaching is about increasing performance, and performance is potential minus interference. So the person's potential, it's always about the person in the context of the organization, their potential is moderated by interferences. They could be internal interferences, external interferences, beliefs, axiomatic truths that they have. The list of interferences is huge. So that's how I have started talking to people about coaching and saying, look, it's on those interferences. That's where we work with coaches. Sorry, that's where we work with coaches. How do you describe what organizational coaches is when people ask you what it is?
As you said, it's a hard thing to answer. It's not like, I'm a doctor and I perform this every.
Not to put you on the spot at all, Braden, or anything.
No. I'm just kind of drawing the contrast here. Like, even when I was a software engineer, it's hard enough to say, what do software engineers do? So coaching, like, the way that I try to frame that, I mean, a couple of ways. Like, one, that there's a general way, and that's kind of talking about, this works with individuals, helps them like recognize and use their strengths, to unlock their potential. And that might be through, helping them be a high performer at work, or helping them to lead their team through this change, for example. So it's really around that strengths and that potential, and kind of recognizing that, they're the expert in that space. What I try to do more often, though, is couch it in more concrete, specific terms. So, like, for example, I was talking with a prospect last week, and this person is like an engineering leader in an organization. And we started that conversation kind of talking about, well, what are the challenges that that person's going through? Oh, well, there's some management issues here, or like there's some skills they could be building up here. It's saying, hey, well, this is, that's a challenge here. Well, coaching can help in this way, can help set some goals around that. It can something that we can kind of check in regularly and like let you work towards that, build upon the skills that you already have, and improve your skills over time while also improving your own performance and the organization's performance. Because coaching can be so many different things. It can be improving well-being, it can be improving organizational performance, it can be improving a particular skill. And it's so hard to describe what basically is a structured conversation, and there's just emergent properties coming out of that, and rather say, well, here is a thing that exists, and this is actually how coaching can help you, and this is what you might get out of that.
No, I like it. And you use the term there as well, performance as well, and I think that's these are like meta words for me anyway. When we're talking about coaching, it's a meta language, because as you said, then performance could mean anything, any performance in any particular realm of the person's life, depending on what type of coach you are and what the setting is that you're talking to the person in. It could be anything. And to go back as well to the point that I raised about potential minus interference, that interference piece, it could be anything, couldn't it? It could be, as you mentioned there, it could be they're having problems with they're having problems managing up, they're having problems managing down, they're having problems managing themselves, they're having problems hitting targets, whatever that interference piece is. The interpretation of the things that are going on around them, that could be an interference piece. It's such a broad, big, beautiful ball of problems that it's hard to actually be able to go, well, this is exactly what coaching is. There you go. You're giving that to somebody, because that'd be nice. That'd be so nice if you could do that. But it, like you said, it depends who you're talking to, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It's amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Braden. We're at 47 minutes, so we've kind of rattled on a little bit, but
covered a bit of track.
Yeah, we certainly have covered a bit of track. Would you be up for coming on again at some point in the future, when we could potentially talk about some of the topics that we're learning in uni, and how you're using them in your practice, and things that I'm sure people will be interested in learning about, things as we learn about things as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of love to come on again and actually hear what, if there's anything that your listeners, watchers, readers, whatever we're calling them, are keen to learn, to hear about as well.
That's awesome, mate. Again, thank you so much for your time. Anyone wants to reach out, Braden Moore, you can be found on LinkedIn, and web address again, thinkgrowlead.com.au. thinkgrowlead.com.au. I'll put a link anyway in the description below. I'll ask Braden, I won't say I'll do this yet, but I'll ask him and see if he'll let me put a link to his LinkedIn as well. See if we can get that in there. So easy to reach out and get in contact with him. Once again, thank you very much, Braden, and I'll see